No, don't paste that there. I don't want that pasted there. Stop pasting. Right, you're getting wound up now. Stop, take a breath. Let's just take a breath and do a review. That's a good idea. Right. Where was I? Right. Live from the workshops, first of all. Incomplete, and what I need to finish them, I won't be able to get until after the new year. So that's off. Custom figure showcase. Finished, but unedited. Collection showcase. Unfilmed completely. Where are we next? Fan theories. Was filmed, lost the footage, needs to be refilmed. Don't have the time to do that, so that's off. And then lastly, animation preview. Complete! Only thing that is. Seriously, 2020, can you give me a break, please? Watch me. Right, hello Jimmy, it's, well, you, me, you, us. If you're seeing this, it means my little experiment's worked and I have successfully sent this USB stick back in time to you. Also possibly my pants. Get off my person when I sent the USB stick. But anyway, I digress. On this USB stick you will find all of the completed segments for your Christmas special this year, all recorded, edited and ready to upload. The only thing you need to do is record the linking narrations. But it's already Christmas Eve. Well, you better get a move on then, hadn't you? What? Oh, and there should be a special package turning up for you by Transtemporal Post. Seriously, Amazon have really stepped up their game in 2021. Right. Hello everyone, a very happy Christmas and welcome to the Captain Jimmy Pie 2020 Christmas special. It's another packed special this year. We've got 2 live from the workshops, 2 custom figure showcases, a new fan theories, a new collections showcase, and finally the first preview draft animation of my Mission to the Unknown figure animation. But first we're going to start with a live from the workshop, although this one's going to be slightly different because not only am I actually going to be making another fan creation, but I'm also going to be asking and discussing an oft asked question. How did you get into arts and crafts? So this is a bit different to my normal custom figure showcases. Firstly, because it's not sort of a custom figure showcase, as it were. Secondly, this was originally supposed to be a live from the workshop, but right as I went to editing the original stuff I filmed for this, I had an external hard drive failure and I lost all the stuff that I'd recorded. I'm absolutely gutted, but it is what it is, and I haven't got the time to, you know, faff around re-recording stuff now. I literally don't have the time to do it because it's the eve of Christmas Eve. So yeah, but here we have Doctor Who Adventures, fantastic channel, please go and check them out. Box Buddies, which is their little Papercraft series they've done. They are absolutely brilliant. I had so much fun making these. And I'm sure some people are going to go, Papercraft seems a bit of a step down from doing custom figures, but partly the reason these interested me so much is because I actually started out doing Papercraft when it comes to arts and crafts. Years before I started YouTube, years before I even knew what YouTube was or even knew YouTube existed, years before Doctor Who came back, I did Papercraft as a hobby just as a hobby. You know, I go online, find prints, download them, print them, because that's all you really need, a printer and some glue, and make them. And it was a absolutely really fun thing to make, but it does require a level of patience, obviously, because you've got to cut things out and then glue them together. So it is a useful learning tool for people who are interested in getting into custom figures. Papercraft is a great place to start, because it really does sort of teach you a lot of, you know, the time and the patience needed to go into these things. But Doctor Who's Adventures box buddies are absolutely fantastic. Obviously, you can see here we've got Davros, we've got a Dalek, and then we've got some of the little sort of Dalek ship display pieces. I've got 3 of them there. You can arrange them into sort of different segments to how you want them, but I did 3 because it just shows you, you know, the sort of scale and size of them. And again, very easy to put together. It's literally just a very simple print and glue. It is absolutely definitely something that I think you should check out if you're a Doctor Who fan. But the flip side of this as well is when it comes to Papercraft, I say the flip side, another side to this is when it comes to Papercraft, if you can't find what you want, you can always design it. And I've got an example of this here, because full credit to Doctor Who Adventures for the original design, but by changing the colours and using some of the basis of this Dalek, I have made my own little destroyed Imperial Dalek. So all I've done for this is literally just change the colours on the base piece, and then on the top I've put in place a picture of a character options version of the Dalek Mutant and made up his little claw, and that's it. And it's such a simple, great thing to do. That is sort of one of the other great fundamentals of Papercraft, is if you can't find it, you can design it yourself. And again, you're only limited by what you can do. The beauty of these box buddies is they are very simple box buddies. They're very simple box shapes. You know, it's a simple net, and it's so nice to see that, because the great thing about that is it produces something which is very unique looking. I love the design, you know, the design work on these, because they're not meant to be accurate, but they still look fantastic, and it really does look like something that, you know, could be an official product. I really genuinely can't praise the design work on this enough. But the great thing about it is it's very simple in that respect, because regardless of whether you're, you know, old like me or you're young, the nice simplicity of a simple net shape is so easy to put together that obviously at the moment, at the time of recording, lockdown is still very much a big thing. No doubt it's going to continue into the next year. If you are looking for something to do and you're finding yourself unable to do things, or over Christmas, if you're one of those people who is currently stranded away from home, if you've got access to a printer and you've got access to some glue, whether it's PVA, Pritt stick, whatever, download these, make them up. It's so much fun. It really does take, you know, you've got to take the time and the patience to do it, which is a great thing, because for a lot of people who want to get into customs, it's a great way of learning that sort of patience and time that you need. But it's such a fun thing to do. It's a great little group activity if you're with a particular group of people, or if you're on your own, it's something that you can occupy your time with. You can sit there with a cup of tea watching some films or whatever's on the telly this Christmas and things like that. It really is something which I think deserves a lot of praise, because not only have they gone to the effort of really putting a lot of work into making these and really making something that is unique looking, but it is something which appeals. It doesn't matter. Papercraft is one of those things. It doesn't matter what your interest. It doesn't matter what your language. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you are. It's a simple arts and crafts thing. It appeals to absolutely everyone, and full praise to Doctor Who Adventures for recognising that this is something that the Doctor Who community, I think, could really band together and get behind, because it is something which is a lot of fun. And you know, we're all, a lot of us, you know, make custom figures and things like this, but I look at these and I think I don't necessarily have the experience to do it, but I do have to look at these box buddies, and I look at some of the people out there who do figure animations and things, for example, and I think this would be a great thing to make a figure animation with, because you could have a lot of fun with it. You know, it doesn't have to, you know, the whole point of it, it's not meant to be accurate, it's not meant to be completely screen accurate. You could have a lot of fun doing little stop motion animations with these. You know, it is something which I think is definitely well worth looking into, regardless of whether you're
if you're not really that interested in arts and crafts, just try this. You know, it might be the start of your interest, or it might be one of those things that you'll do and you'll think, I'm still not really interested in arts and crafts, but actually, rather like doing a jigsaw puzzle, that was a lot of fun for a few minutes. Just give it a go. You know, at the end of the day, all of us are locked down in some shape or form with a lot of time on our hands. So do something like this Christmas. It would really, really cheer you up, and it is a very, very fun little thing to do. I've done many fan theories over the years. However, one point that keeps popping up is Time Lords recognising each other. Most specifically, the 12th Doctor and Missy. So, with part 2 of this to follow in the new year, here is a fan theory on that very subject.
What's that word you use?
Spoilers.
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 Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers. I like that word.
I thought you might.
Supposedly, Time Lords can recognise each other on sight regardless of their current bodies. However, in one of my very first theories concerning the Doctor's mother, many people raised the point of why didn't the 12th Doctor recognise Missy in dark water? Now, there are some sources which state that Time Lords have the mental capacity to be able to block other Time Lords from being able to recognise them, and given the Master's hypnotic abilities and penchant for disguises, it is certainly not beyond the skills of the character to believe that this may be true. Some episodes even show that external devices can be used to cloak them, which appropriately for this video the Master has done on several occasions. Such as in Sound of the Drums, where he used the Archangel network to hide himself from the 10th Doctor despite being on Earth all along.
Ah, yes! That's how he hid himself from me, because I should have sent there was another Time Lord on Earth. I should have known way back then. The signal cancelled them out.
And in Spyfall, it is implied that whilst a previous incarnation of the Doctor met the Master when he was disguised as O, he may have also used a perception filter to hide his true identity from the Doctor for so many years, similar to how he also hid from the Nazis in the episode.
Tiny totonic psychic perception filter. Lets people see what they want to see.
However, as the 10th Doctor himself once explained, a perception filter doesn't hide you or make you invisible, just unnoticed. And once someone using a perception filter becomes known, the effect no longer works. This has been seen in the show many times, for example with the TARDIS, with those on the lookout for it, or a police box in general able to see it, although many others will simply walk straight past it. However, there are many other instances of a perception filter being used to hide an individual. In Sound of the Drums, the Master is seemingly aware of the Doctor's presence more than once, even though he can't see him. And in Torchwood, when Jack explains how the hub's invisible lift works.
It's called a perception filter. He can sort of see us, but we don't quite register. Just like something in the corner of your eye.
With Susie Costello later confirming that once you become aware of the effect, it no longer works.
You surrender yourself to it. And that's why the perception filter isn't going to work on me.
Other episodes, such as The Lodger, also state that perception filters have the ability to trick the memory.
No, there's always been an upstairs.
As I think about it.
Yes. No, I don't.
Perception filter, it's more than a disguise, it tricks your memory.
And Night Terrors suggest that inconsistencies will be forgotten.
And how could I forget that Claire can't have kids? How?
Perception filter. Some kind of hugely powerful perception filter convinced you and Claire. Everyone made you change your memory.
It is also worth noting that as of Series 12, we know that Dewan's Master was present on Earth for pretty much all of the series' previous based stories, having had to wait on Earth for 77 years after being abandoned without his TARDIS in 1943. This means that the Doctor should have sensed his presence on Earth long before then. So logically he must have had or found some way to hide his identity, possibly fixing his broken perception filter previously used in 1943 in order to reveal himself to the Doctor at the right moment 77 years later. So how does this all fit into the Doctor not recognising Missy? Well, taking all of this into account is my personal theory that Missy had a perception filter which she used to hide her true identity from the Doctor. However, when he felt her heartbeat, he began to work out who she really was. But as at the time he believed the Master to still be trapped on Gallifrey following the events of the end of time, he probably refused to believe the truth. And so his shock at her revealing her identity to him isn't surprise at her reveal, it's the shock of having his suspicions confirmed, but also the larger implications of what this may mean. Whilst the 12th Doctor wouldn't become aware until later on in his life that it was in fact Missy's previous incarnation who had escaped Gallifrey, it still meant that if the Master had escaped Gallifrey, Gallifrey itself could have returned, but also
things from within the Time War and possibly its aftermath could have also escaped. This time last year I did my big reveal of my Resolution of the Daleks Recon Dalek custom, which I still have and I'm very proud of. However, of course, not long after, we got an official version. However, as is often the way with customs, just because you see them on my channel doesn't mean they've only just been finished. Often is the case, I have them on my shelves for a long time before I show them in order to fill in that particular gap in my collection of figures. This has very much been the case with my black Recon Dalek that will be seen in this year's special Revolution of the Daleks. However, as it's highly likely that we will get an official version in future, I still decided that I would update my custom version one final time. But with a bit of help this time as well. Now, before we get into actually looking at this Dalek, there are a couple. One thing I would like to make a note of. Obviously, when I did my first custom of this, or my first two customs, it hadn't officially been revealed as such, so it was still considered the leaked Dalek. So I put them up with spoiler warnings, etc., and things like that. Obviously now though, we have had official images released of this Dalek, it's appearing on the posters. I appreciate that this video is still going out before the episode is revealed, however, this Dalek is in the trailers, it's on the pictures, it's on the posters, so I'm not putting up spoiler warnings because it's quite literally been revealed. You know, if you've the kind of person who wants to go, oh, I've tried to steer clear from all of the, you know, trailers and the pictures and things like that, well, it's out there, it's public knowledge now, it is literally public knowledge. It is not down to me now to put up spoiler warnings when it is something that has been officially revealed. I want to make that perfectly clear. But going on to looking at the Dalek, obviously I've made a few changes on this. One very noticeable change, which I'll come back to last. But starting from the dome down, on the dome lights, I've repainted them a slight sort of white colour, because I had previously them sort of a kind of a creamish colour, but I decided they look better in white. The eye stalk I have repainted silver rather than the black I had previously, although I did originally have it as silver, so I didn't need to repaint it the second time as it turns out, but I did, but I repainted it back to what it was. The light section around the neck, where it's normally red on the Recon Dalek, I've repainted blue, because obviously this Dalek has blue light up parts. That is the only part I have decided to paint blue, simply because I did do some sort of Photoshop edits of how it might look if I repainted the other bits that are seeming to light up blue, and it just didn't look right, so I decided just to keep it plain silver. The midsection is pretty much unchanged, with the exception of the front part, just underneath the slats. I've re-edited that. I previously had 2 bars across there because that's what I thought I had seen in the leaked images, the grainy leaked images. Turns out that's not the case, so I've removed that. But it is the base, obviously, where we see the largest difference. And the reason for this is actually a 3D printed base, which was sent to me by 3D Who on Instagram. They sent me the STL files to be able to print it. So a big shout out to them for doing it. As far as I am aware, they have not at present time, or at the time of recording, put the files up anywhere for download. It is not my place to hand out those files, so obviously it is down to them what they decide to do. I'm just very happy that they've given me these files. Obviously, I'm hoping that we are going to see an official version of this Dalek, and I see no reason why we wouldn't, because it seems a fairly obvious thing for them to do now they've got the Recon Dalek sculpt, making a new base. Obviously, whilst not cheap, is something which could be easily done. The chances of us seeing a version, I know some people have said about seeing one that lights up and things like that, I think it's very unlikely we're going to see that, to be perfectly honest. Highly unlikely. But it is fantastic, you know, that hopefully we will see a version of this officially. You know, I did consider whether it was worth doing this update. If we are going to get an official one again, this is a big if, but you know, if we are going to get an official one. But I thought, well, you know, it's not confirmed, it's worth doing this just to update my custom one. And you know, I am very pleased with this custom. It has come out very well. The base has come out absolutely superbly, and as I said, hopefully for a final update to this, it is one that has come out very, very well.
I've never really been one for making companion customs. Not for any real reason, they've just never hugely interested me. But on occasion, the rare idea does crop up that I decide, actually, do you know what? I am going to make that. And I've got 3 coming in the new year, which I'm certainly looking forward to. But one of the many things that I have an abundance of in the bottom of my parts box is Roman soldiers. And then recently I found myself with a couple of spare Rory Williams heads. So there was only one thing I could do. So here we have the beginnings of my Rory Williams Lone Centurion figure. So overall it is just your standard Centurion Roman figure, but obviously I've done a lot of sculpting work and things like that. You know, I've sculpted on extra bits on the boots, I've sculpted on the torso bit, shaved off bits off the arms, added on some, I don't really know what these bits are called on the Roman soldier uniform, but I've added them taken from the Jadoon figure. So now it's really a case of painting. So we're going to start off with the red on the arms, I think, so let's get straight onto that. And so here is my finished Rory Williams Centurion. So there's a couple of bits you won't have seen because at the time of recording this, this is one of the last things I recorded for my Christmas special, and I had a hard drive failure and I lost a couple of bits, namely the painting of the gold and the painting of the cloak. But the gold bits, it was just painting, you know, it was painting the gold bits gold and painting the cloak a slightly darker red. The cloak itself is from a Sycorax figure with just the bits trimmed off, and I think that's come out very well. But it is the sculpting on this, especially on the chest plate piece, which I'm most proud of, because I sculpted it to look like sort of a muscular torso in the way that he has his costume in the episode, and in the way sort of Centurion costumes and outfits sort of had. And I didn't think it was going to come out that well, but it really has come out a lot better than I thought it was going to, so I'm very, very pleased with that. Obviously overall, you know, it is just a sort of it is mostly, well, I was going to say it's mostly a repaint, but which it is, but obviously there's lots of sculpting work gone onto it as well. But I am really pleased with the final outcome. It's nice that the swords and things still fit on there as well. But the sculpting work is certainly the thing that I'm probably most proud of on this one, because it is again one of those things that was very difficult to do. It took a lot of work to get right, but it is one of those things that's come out a lot better than I thought it was going to, so I am very pleased with the final figure. Like many people, when the Paradigm Daleks were introduced, I was not hugely fond of them, but over the years they have grown on me. So recently I decided to go along with my collection of 18-inch Daleks, I would buy one each of the 13-inch remote control Paradigms, which presented a bit of a problem, because one of them had never actually been made. So today we are going to be looking over my collection of 13-inch Paradigm Daleks, because as many of you will know, I have quite the collection of 18-inch new series Daleks, but over the years the Paradigm Daleks have grown on me. And I originally started by getting just the drone of the 13-inch remote control versions. I have done a review of that as part of my What I Think series, if you want to go and check out the functions on these, because I'm not going to do those in this video. This is just purely a collections piece. So originally I got the drone, and then after I got the drone I thought, well, do I want to sort of get one of each, you know, so I've got them all, you know, one of each of the collection. And then I managed to find the Eternal Dalek fairly cheap. After that I managed to get hold of the Supreme, and by that time I thought, you know what, I am just going to get one of each.
You know, so after that, I managed to find the surprisingly most elusive of them all. The blue strategist Dalek is actually the more difficult to find of these, and that got me all of the official releases, which is as you see here. Obviously, some of them, the blue strategist and the Eternal, were exclusive ones, only available through certain stores. Obviously, long since stopped selling in stores, so now it's a case of trying to find them online, but I managed to find these four. However, there was a problem, because there was never produced the Orange Scientist, and there are a lot of very convincing custom versions out there, I will say that, but I have researched it a lot, and any versions of the 13-inch Orange Scientist you see are customs. There was never officially released an official one. So, I had to do something, well, I'll show you. Because here it is, my very own Orange Scientist 13-inch Paradigm Custom. So this started off life as a standard red drone, but I'm going to put some pictures up on screen so I can show you now what I did. So first of all, I had to mask off all of the grey bits as I could, which obviously took time, but it meant, you know, once I'd masked those off, I could just very simply spray paint it up. I got some just standard orange, I think it was just orange high coat spray paint, sprayed it up orange, then obviously took all of the masking bits off, and it is as you see it here. It literally was that simple. It, you know, it really wasn't that difficult to do. It was the most time consuming part was the masking. You know, it really was difficult doing that bit, but as you can see, there's a few small bits here and there which needed tidying up. You know, there's a couple of little bits that I still need to do, but overall, that was literally it. It was just a case of masking things off. It was really, really simple to do. And I'm really pleased with how it's come out, because I have to say, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but this really does look on the verge of being official. You know, it's come out so much better than I expected. But I was curious as to why we never got an official version. So I did a bit of digging, a bit of asking around, and I managed to find out that whilst an official version never happened, it was indeed planned. And from what I've managed to gather, it was planned to be an exclusive through an undisclosed retailer. I do not know who was going to take it on, but it was going to be produced as an exclusive, similar to the Eternal and the Strategist Dalek, the yellow and the blue, but for whatever reason it never happened, and so that's why we never got it. So it was going to be made. We were close to getting it, but we never did, so obviously I had to make this version as well. So I made this version, but then I started considering saying, well, how much more of this do I want? Because obviously now I've got all of the you know, all of the standard Victory of the Daleks versions. I thought, do I want to do metallic ones? And in the end, I have decided no. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to do them in future. There's still a good possibility I might do them, but I don't have any plans to make them. And I don't have any plans to do the green version, which was in the Dalek That Time Forgot, because that was a non-canon Dalek that was made. It's an interesting idea, but I have been asked over the years if I'm ever planning to make it, and it's just not one that really ever interests me. Not because it's a good Dalek, but just because it's not an official version. It's not one that I sort of want in the lineup. So for now, these 5 colour versions, you know, with the different colours, I'm very pleased with. But that still left out the Underhenge Dalek, and I didn't plan to do it. But then I managed to find another spare red drone Dalek. So there was only one thing I could do, and that was, of course, to make this. So this was actually a lot easier to make than the orange version, simply because it was really originally just going to be a case of, I thought, well, what I'll do, I'll spray it grey, and then I'll get a bit of sort of stone effect paint, which you can have, so it sort of makes chips and makes it look like it does, very similar to the official 5-inch version we got. But the more I looked at that, the more I thought, well, do you know what, actually, as much as I like the character options version, I thought I can go one better than that. So I thought what I'll do is I'll make some cuts in it, which you can see I've done in places, you know, and I'll take little chips and bits out and I'll make it look a bit more sort of weathered and worn. You know, I've taken a chunk out of the eye stalk as it appeared in the episode, and I was really pleased with that. But again, I looked at it and I thought it still isn't going to look very stone effect. So, as you might be able to see from this, hoping this is coming up on screen, it's obviously got lots of stony lumps and a real stone effect to it. And the way I did that, more pictures up on screen now, is basically made a mix of coarse sand and PVA glue and just got handfuls of it and chucked it at the Dalek, scraped off some bits where it had sort of gathered in around the edges and places like that, but still leaving on some of the bigger chunks, let that dry, then give the Dalek an overall coat of PVA glue just to sort of seal it off, and then spray it up with grey primer, giving it some sort of slight quick sprays of black just to give it a bit more of a mottled stone effect. And that was it. That's literally all I've done for this. And the only other thing I did do actually was I put a bit of masking tape around the eye, and there's also a slight strip on the front here and on the side here, because whilst this doesn't move as such, I don't think it does anyway, originally because I think the motor had an issue with it, the lights and sounds do still work, so this does actually still light up. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic to do this, and it was a lot of fun because everyone likes making a bit of a mess, you know, but overall I am very pleased with the final outcome. I'll do a quick turnaround so you can see. There's not really a whole lot to it. It is literally just a case of that I've just chucked a load of sand at it and then painted it, but it has come out extraordinarily well, and I really am pleased with the final outcome of it. You know, it really has come out very well. I thought this was going to be the one that was the most difficult to do, but it was actually the easiest. It just took time more than anything else. So yeah, that's really all there is to that one, but it is a very nice, simple, relatively simple custom that was a lot of fun to make, so obviously it is part of this collection as well, so I wanted to make sure I added that one into the video. So here we have the full final collection on camera, or at least my collection as it stands right now. As I said, I am not planning to do the metallic versions, partly because it would mean I will have to make some sort of alterations to the back of them if I want them to be really accurate, but I might just do them just as a simple repaint. I'd have to find the right tone to repaint and things like that, but given how easy it was to just spray paint up the orange one, it would not be difficult to spray paint up a metallic blue and a metallic red, seeing as those are the ones we've seen. And, you know, if I do those two, then there's sort of not really a reason not to do the green one. But as I said, I'm not even planning on doing the metallic one, so I really don't hold out any hope for doing the green one. Simply because if I'm not going to do the metallic ones, there's no point in doing the green one. You know, the metallic ones are canon. The green one isn't. So, you know, if I'm not interested in doing canon ones, I'm not hugely interested in doing non-canon ones. But you never know. I'm not going to rule it out entirely. And it's also worth pointing out as well, actually, to be fair, these are not cheap. You know, they really are not cheap to get hold of these days. Out of box, they're not expensive, but you'll be hard pushed to find one that still has all the parts. But just generally, you know, it's easy to find them in box, but they are quite expensive. So we'll see. As I said, I'm not ruling anything out, but I am not definitely confirming I'm going to make any more of these. As many of you will know, earlier this year I acquired a 3D printer, and it has been immensely helpful in the production of customs, certainly in no small part to the amazing talents of the many people out there who make some fantastic designs in order to print. Recently I was very lucky to come across someone who has made some fantastic Cybermen figure. So rather like my 13th Doctor, Resolution Dalek and Lynn custom figure showcase this year, I thought I would do another trilogy of customs. So going from left to right, we have the Cyber Warrior, Ashad the Lone Cyberman, and finally the Cyber Master. Now these have all been 3D printed. I'm going to go into where I got them and where you can find them at the end of this. But first we're going to have a look at the Cyber Warrior. So first up here we have the Cyber Warrior. It is an absolutely fantastic build. It does have a good amount of articulation. However, I have made a very foolish and fundamental mistake that I genuinely can't believe I made, because I've been making model kits for years, so I don't know why I did this, which means I can't actually show you the articulation on most of these, because in my excitement to get them finished, I put them together and then, for reasons I cannot fathom, decided to paint them, rather than painting the parts individually and then putting them together. You know, it depends on the model kit you're doing. I mean, things like, for example, an Airfix kit, sometimes it's better to paint it after you've put it together, but generally I tend to paint things before I put them together, then put them together, and then touch up the paint afterwards. And for some reason I decided to put this together straight from the off, and I don't know why I did that, because it now means that the articulation is very stiff, but it does have a really good amount of articulation. So going from it, the head and torso are all one piece, so the head doesn't turn, but the waist is on a peg, so the waist turns. The arms are, shoulder joints are on a peg, so they will move backwards and forwards. The elbows are on hinges, so they will move as well. The hips are again on pegs, so they will move back and forth. The knees will bend. The feet don't bend like the head, they are fixed into position, but it still works very well. The only other differences I've made on this, I will point out while I'm talking about the feet, is I have made some slight differences to the foot design, just to add on a couple of small details of my own that I wanted to put on, that are on the not on James Lee's design. Not to discredit his design, is just worth pointing out that there are a few minor, very, very small inaccuracies compared to, you know, these aren't 100% screen accurate, but at the end of the day, the fact that he's made these, it's certainly something I couldn't have done. It is absolutely fantastic, and I'm not going to personally quibble over a few small inaccuracies that I could change myself if I really wanted to. You know, the whole point, these aren't made to be screen accurate. These are things made for the fans by the fans. You know, it's not a company thing. You know, it's very, very different to an official figure. On that note as well, I will say that obviously these are fantastic designs, well worth making, well worth printing if you want them in your collection, but unlike a real toy, these are very much made, whilst they do have articulation, for, I would say, display purposes. It is only made of plastic or resin, depending on how you print it. It does not stand up to the stresses of play and things like that, so, you know, I want to make that clear now, because I know 3D printing in the Doctor Who community is becoming a much more bigger thing. You know, it's got quite a following now, but I think a lot of people who start 3D printing might not realise how fragile things can be. So this is a very fragile design, as are many others. It is not a fault of the design. It is simply just the manufacturing process is the way it is. You know, it is something that I do just want to point out, because, you know, James Lee's designs are absolutely fantastic. They really are great, and I certainly wouldn't want to see people, you know, saying, oh, well, it's a bit flimsy that this happens and that happens. It's because he's one person designing these. He's not a company. There's not, you know, a huge amount of quality control, because you shouldn't expect that from fans who design their own things. You know, they do look very good, they've come out very well, and there's certainly pieces that I think go well in my collection. But let's move on to having a look at Ashad, aka the Lone Cyberman. So here we have Ashad, aka the Lone Cyberman. Slight difference on this one is he is actually a bit more articulated, but I went the other way. He's an owl too loose, so I actually don't want to move him, because it's just taken me about 5 minutes to get him to stand on the pedestal, because the problem I had on this one was I made him, the joints felt a bit stiff, so I sort of carved them out and loosened them, and I made them too loose. Again, these are all things that I have done. This is not a fault of the design. You know, this is something that I'm new to, sort of doing articulated figures, so there is a degree of trial and error with these. But even so, put together, he looks absolutely fantastic. Same amount of articulation as on the Cyber Warrior, but he also has an articulated head which will turn from side to side. I absolutely love the design of this. The head is absolutely superb. You know, I've just noticed that I've literally just noticed this second, I have not added on the wires that he has going from the front to the back. That's a bit annoying, but I might go back and update them later. But overall, he looks absolutely fantastic. The only addition that I've made to this, other than doing the same thing with the feet that I did on the Cyber Warrior, is his hand, his human hand. I've used a spare decayed master hand, partly out of accidental breakage. When I was putting the Mondazian arm together, I accidentally snapped off his hand, because again, these are just made of very, you know, simple plastics, but I had a load of those hands spare, so I decided it would be a good opportunity to use them to make, you know, to make this, and also it adds a nice little bit of articulation to his hand as well, because his hand now does turn. But yeah, overall, it's a fantastic figure. I certainly hope again that we do see an official version of this, but for now, it's a great one to have as part of my collection. It's great to do these articulated 3D prints as well, because I'm certainly learning a lot doing them. You know, they really are coming out of the printer very well, but you know, I have to give full credit to James Lee for his fantastic building skills, because again, I wouldn't have these to print if he hadn't made them. That's the bottom line. So they really do come out very well. But now let's get on to having a look at the Cyber Master. And lastly, here we have the Cyber Master design. Obviously on this one you can see I've made a few changes. Obviously I've done the same thing with the feet again, but the most noticeable addition is the cloak. Now this is just a Rassilon cloak, which I'd had in the bottom of my box for ages. I'd ripped it to pieces, I'd cut chunks out of the arms and cut the bottom off. As luck would have it, it actually fits on this figure very well. I have had to do a little bit of extra trimming around the collar to make it fit. But obviously it looks very good. Painted it black, added on the Gallifreyan symbols. Overall, the parts for this one are actually the same parts used on the Cyber Warrior. The only difference is the torso piece, because it's got the different head, which is part of the torso print. And then obviously it's got the headdress on there as well, the Gallifreyan symbols headdress, which I've painted a slightly silvery gold. Now they are silver as standard in the episode. I've actually looked it up, a lot of, you know, trawled through it, and the actual headdresses are painted silver in the episode. But when I watched it, because of the lighting, they always appeared slightly golden silver to me. So I actually painted it like this, and then re-watching the episode I realised, oh actually they're silver, but I prefer this, I like this, so I'm going to keep it like this. And then other than that, I have just painted on the symbols on the headdress, the Gallifreyan symbols on the actual head piece itself, the actual Cyberman head. Again, it's a fantastic looking figure, and I certainly hope that this is one that Character Options do in future, because assuming that they give us a Cyber Warrior with a separate head sculpt, then they would only really need to make up a cloak and a new head to make a Cyber Master. And again, I say only, that's a fair amount to have to make, but I'm sure they could repurpose some different parts. It would certainly be one that I would like to see them make. You know, but I'm very pleased with this. I love the Cyber Master design. It's certainly one that's going to look fantastic on my shelves alongside all my other ones. But now let's get on to having a look at my final thoughts on these figures. So as I said at the beginning, these were all 3D printed. I printed them myself, but these were designed by James Lee, fantastic designer who has posted on the Doctor Who 3D printing Facebook group. I was actually originally after a mechanoid, and he has also done one of them, so he sent me a link to his Google Drive where he uploads his designs. But as alongside the mechanoid and several other interesting ones, he had these, and I thought, I've got to make them, so I did, and here they are. He has given me permission to share the link to his Google Drive in the description below. So please go and check that out if you do want to make them themselves. He has done absolutely fantastic work, and I certainly couldn't have done it without him. So really do want to give full props and thanks to him for his fantastic designs. These are certainly going to look very good on my display as part of my collection. And also he's done, you might have, well, at the time I'm recording this video, I won't have done it yet, but he did also do a Nightmare in Silver Cyberman, which we have long been overdue, so that is going to also be coming on my channel at some point in future. I don't know when yet. But also, as I said as well, he's done some mechanoids and several other ones which I do want to do, so be sure to keep a lookout for some fantastic designs that I will be doing of his in future. Well, it's just about time to close another Christmas special, but there is one final addition to come in a moment. My first preview draft clip of my Mission to the Unknown figure animation. Now, I would just like to say, please bear in mind, this is very much a first draft clip. There are a lot of
things that need to be changed, tweaks, editing to both the visuals and the sound, and please bear in mind this is the first ever bit of figure animation I have ever done. Also, the version you're about to see is the black and white version, which is how it will appear here publicly on YouTube. But if you want to see this preview draft in colour, as well as some behind the scenes info about how it was made, please head over to my Patreon to subscribe in order to see that. For now though, again, I would just like to say a very happy Christmas, and I hope you all have, under the circumstances, a good new year. And as always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favourite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot, and of course be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. I am of course doing my very first figure animation, and you can get involved. There is exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.
I will receive your reports. First, Space Monitor Control. Space Monitor Control. The emissaries from the 7 planets will arrive as arranged. Then the conference will begin at first sun. Security report. Security Control. Position of alien spacecraft located. Our patrol will reach it shortly. The ship and its occupants must be totally destroyed. 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 It will be done.